The major film studios in the United States during the 60s were really just nothing but remnants of the old Hollywood days. You know, corporations, you know, insurance corporations, conglomerates, they were all buying these things and trying to run an entertainment division, and they couldn't. So it was about 1980 when most of those studios sort of reformed themselves as independent entertainment organizations. You know, Walt Disney Company, ABC Television, Paramount, Blockbuster, they stayed in the same realm of entertainment so that they could be run like an entertainment organization. And then they started getting their act together and made it very difficult for independent distributors like John and some of the other independents. You know, a lot of the other studios, New Line, Miramax, and all these, they all got absorbed into the majors, where John, you know, his pretty much went away in about the 1970s.
Eventually they became so successful, these independent film peddlers, these independent distributors and sub-distributors, they became so successful at what they were doing that they drove themselves out of business. Because the major film companies started realizing, you know, these little low-budget horror films, these motorcycle films, these exploitation films that can be made very cheaply and can be sold on a very profitable basis. So what developed was that the major film companies started investing in these little films to the detriment of the independents, people like me, who really couldn't compete with them because we did not have the deep pockets to do so.
John should have been a millionaire now, multi-millionaire, because back then, man, before the industry changed everything and the entire, it was probably, what, about early 80s that the entire industry changed?
Yep.
But up until then, I mean, it was just incredible money-making for the independents and everybody.
Back in the 70s, I was making a whole lot of money. I mean, a lot of money. Flying the Concorde, taking limousines everywhere. I think we did like $22 million in deposits in my various companies, and I think I spent around $23 million. So it did not quite end up on an even basis. But when I had all of that money and anything that I wanted in terms of the world, I just think that I wasn't really connecting with the people that I loved when I think back on it.
It was in 1980 when Thomas & Shipp closed its doors. That same year, John separated from Summer, his wife of 10 years. They would later divorce. Upon looking back, it would be the most trying time of his life.
I went middle-aged crazy in about 1980 and took a powder down to Florida and ended up running a bait shop and charter boat service because my companies that I was involved with had gone belly up, basically broke.
Owing money to several of his old colleagues, John feared that many of them would come to collect. One day, one of them did. His name was Mark Tinzer, who ran Crown International, one of the biggest independent distribution companies at the time.
I remember dipping some shrimp one morning, one Saturday, I think it was a Saturday morning, out back to take inside for some customer. And there was a voice behind me that said, "Mr. Shipp," and it tapped me on the shoulder, and I knew that it was someone serving me papers. Mark was suing me for money that Thomas & Shipp Films had owed Crown International. And he was the only guy who did. That was the only company that ever took legal action against the company that I was involved with. And that's still kind of a sad moment.